In the heart of Manila's bustling streets, where the air was always thick with the sound of jeepneys, laughter, and the occasional street vendor shouting over the noise, lived a 13-year-old girl named Althea Ramos. Her world was small, a narrow alley lined with rusted tin roofs, laundry swaying from wires, and puddles that never seemed to dry. But inside that world was a voice, pure, golden, and powerful enough to stop people in their tracks. Althea didn't know it yet, but her song was about to make the world cry. Every morning, before school, she would help her mother sell lumpia near the Quiapo church. Her mother's hands were always moving, rolling wrappers, counting coins, wiping sweat. Her father had left years ago, chasing dreams that never came back, so Althea became her mother's second heartbeat. But even while working, Althea would hum, softly, shyly, like a secret she wasn't ready to share. Her mother would smile and say, "You got that voice from God, Anak. Don't hide it." But Althea didn't believe that. She didn't believe her voice could mean much in a world that barely noticed people like her. The city was full of noise, sirens, horns, crying babies, preachers on corners, and who would listen to one little girl singing between it all? Then one afternoon, everything changed. It was during a school program for the city's Foundation Day. Her music teacher, Mr. Santos, had heard her humming in class and convinced her to audition. She resisted at first, cheeks burning at the thought of standing on a stage in front of hundreds. But he told her something that stuck: sometimes the world doesn't know it needs your voice until it hears it. When the day came, she wore a borrowed white dress that was a little too big and shoes that pinched her toes. Backstage, she felt her hands shaking so hard she almost dropped the microphone. She peeked out from behind the curtain. The crowd was enormous, rows of faces under bright lights. Her heart pounded so fast she thought she might faint. But then she remembered her mother's tired eyes that morning, how she smiled even when life hurt. She took a deep breath and walked out. The music started, just a soft piano intro, a melody she had written herself. And then Althea began to sing. Her voice trembled at first, but as the song unfolded, something inside her lifted. The lyrics were about her mother, about love that doesn't give up, about dreams that survive even when everything else falls apart. And the audience went silent. People stopped scrolling their phones. Some leaned forward. Her voice, fragile but powerful, filled every corner of the hall. It wasn't perfect, but it was real, and that truth wrapped around every heart that heard it. By the time she reached the final note, tears were rolling down faces, students, teachers, even janitors standing in the doorway. Someone in the crowd recorded the performance. That someone uploaded it to social media that night. By morning, Althea's life changed. The video spread like wildfire, millions of views in just days. People from around the world were commenting in dozens of languages. "She made me cry. This little girl has the voice of an angel. Where is she from? She deserves the world." News outlets picked it up. TV stations called. Even famous singers reposted her video, stunned by the emotion in her voice. But what touched people most wasn't just her voice, it was her story. The little girl from Manila who sang about her mother's love and made the world stop. Soon, invitations came pouring in. A foundation in the United States wanted to sponsor her schooling. A charity group offered to rebuild her family's home. A record label in Manila asked her to perform at a benefit concert. For the first time in her life, Althea saw her mother cry, not from exhaustion, but from joy. When Althea flew to Los Angeles for the concert, it was her first time leaving the Philippines. The city lights stunned her, the tall buildings, the wide roads, the clean air. But what touched her more was the kindness of strangers. The hotel staff who greeted her like family, the fans waiting outside just to tell her she was inspiring, the Filipino nurses who showed up with homemade food saying, "You make us proud, Anak." On the night of the concert, she was scheduled to sing the same song, the one that had gone viral. But before she began, she took a deep breath and said softly into the mic, "This song is for everyone who loves someone so much they'd give the world for them. And for every child who still believes they can change their story." And then she sang. This time, the hall wasn't just filled with music, it was filled with emotion so raw, so honest, that even the camera operators wiped their eyes. The audience stood as one when she finished, clapping through tears. Among them were people who had flown in from all over the world just to see her sing. After the performance, a man approached her backstage. He was a well-known producer, but what he said wasn't about contracts or fame. He said, "You reminded me why I started loving music. You brought humanity back into it." Althea didn't know what to say. She was just a girl who sang because she loved her mom. Months passed, and she continued to sing, not for fame, but to raise funds for children who couldn't afford school. Each concert she performed became a story of giving. She built classrooms, donated instruments, and sent kids to school in poor areas across the Philippines. She never forgot where she came from. When people asked her what success meant, she would say, "It's not how loud the world claps for you, it's how many hearts you touch before the music stops." But there was one moment that changed her the most. During one of her charity events in Manila, she met a little girl selling sampaguita flowers outside the venue. The girl was barefoot, her dress torn, her eyes hopeful. She tugged on Althea's sleeve and whispered, I saw your video. I want to sing too someday." Althea knelt and smiled. "Then you will," she said, handing the girl her own microphone. "Start now." The girl sang, off-key, nervous, but with the same spark Althea once had. The crowd gathered, smiling. Althea's mother watched from the side, eyes shining with quiet pride. In that instant, Althea realized something. The power of her song wasn't in her voice, it was in the hope it created. The world cried because they saw themselves in her. They remembered their mothers, their struggles, their dreams. Music, she thought, was never about the singer, it was about connection. Years later, when people asked her how she became famous, she would always laugh softly and say, "I didn't try to be. I just sang the truth." Her viral video eventually reached 200 million views. Documentaries were made about her life. She stood on stages across the world, yet she always returned to her small home in Manila, where it all began. She'd sit outside, watching kids play, hearing the same city noise that once drowned her out, and she'd smile, knowing that somewhere, another child was finding their own voice. When she turned 18, she established the Song of Hope Foundation, helping young musicians in underprivileged communities. Her message was simple: every child deserves to be heard. The story of Althea Ramos became more than a viral moment, it became a reminder of what the world often forgets, that beauty can rise from the simplest places, that greatness doesn't need grand beginnings, and that sometimes, a single song can awaken something in millions of hearts. One journalist, writing about her, summed it up perfectly: "In a time when the world feels divided, a 13-year-old girl from Manila reminded us of what truly connects us, the sound of humanity." Even years later, people still watched that first video and cried. Not because it was sad, but because it was real. Because it carried the voice of every child who ever dreamed, every mother who ever hoped, and every person who ever needed to believe that love could still heal the world. And somewhere in the warm glow of a Manila sunset, Althea would still sing, softly, humbly, like a prayer carried by the wind, grateful that her song had found its way into the hearts of strangers who no longer felt so far away. For in the end, it wasn't fame or applause that defined her story, it was how her voice became a bridge between worlds, a melody that whispered the same truth across every language and every heart. That love, in all its forms, is the most powerful song the world will ever hear.